This is your story.
Yeah.
This is my story.
This is my song.
You're the only one that can tell it.
That's right.
All right? Let the world be involved and embrace your story. All right?
There it is.
Here we go. How did Rose Ministry begin?
How did Rose Ministry begin? Rose Ministry began when I started a cleaning business. I started a cleaning business in the early 80s. I was at that time a correctional officer, and I wanted to shift and begin my own business, and I started a cleaning business. And I had a lot of senior clients. And a lot of senior clients that I had when we were in the houses cleaning their homes, there were so many things that were needed to be done that we really couldn't possibly do because we were only there to clean the house. But there was construction, there was so many issues that was in my heart about what I wanted to do to help them. And these are people who had family members. He had family, but it appeared that no one was there to help them. And so that's how Rose Ministry originally started.
Tell me about your upbringing.
My upbringing was the most wonderful life that I could ever imagine. I had the most wonderful mother and father. I was born and raised in a Christian home. We went to church every time the doors opened. I got saved when I was 8 years old. My mother became a teacher of Sunday school and whatever else she could get me active in towards the Lord. That little song, "This Little Light of Mine, I'm Gonna Let It Shine. Hide it under a bushel, no, I'm gonna let it shine." That was my mother's favorite song for us to sing. And as she got older, she passed away at 94. As she got older, her favorite song was "Because He Lives, I Can Face Tomorrow." And so all these times in my life, hard times, I go back to that song. And then she taught me, "What time I am afraid, I will trust in Thee."
Tell me about your family, the history in this city of Statesboro.
I was raised here in Swainsboro, Georgia, but my family roots go way back into the Garbetts and the Roundtrees in Summertown, where there's a burial ground called the Promised Land. My great-grandmother gave that to the African-American race. And so today my heritage is a lot of, I walk in the unity of the Lord, because He said how beautiful it is that brothers dwell together in unity.
Tell me about finding the ring.
I found the most precious possession, a ring that was my mom's engagement ring and my mom's wedding ring. And my mother and father were married 58 years and it had been lost. But God gave me a scripture when this project started that there are hidden jewels in the dark places. So with the expectation, no matter if it was 12 midnight, I was still looking to uncover the jewels that they say that, that I was going to find. But the most precious thing was this little ring, and every time I look down at it, I see my mother's hand. So I'm reminded of how much she loved me.
Tell me about that sentimental piano that's in your home.
That beautiful piano that's in my home is such a treasure to me because it was my grandmother's. And I took 12 years of piano and I still couldn't play like my grandmother, but I loved to sit there. And as my mother got older and she went through some illnesses, we would sit in that room and I would play the piano for my mom. I could never do any wrong. And she'd clap because she enjoyed just being with me. And my grandmother was a church pianist, and I was expected to be that, but God had other plans and made me a preacher, which I understand. But I always just wanted to sing and play that piano, you know, and worship the Lord. And I believe I will one day. It just hadn't been time. But my mother and father growing up did extensive traveling. They went to Japan and Europe. And so in our home, we have many articles and different mementos through their travel. I have a doll collection that my mother prided herself in doing for me as a little girl. And just some unique, beautiful things that when I look at them, I think of my mother. There's a beautiful Chinese tea set that if you bought oatmeal, Quaker oatmeal, you got China inside of it. They used to hide it inside of there. So I have a heritage that is awesome. I just wish I could tell more because I had such a wonderful family.
Tell me about the 16 years of you and your mother being in at home together and the impact that it put on you.
Yeah. The impact that it had on me, not only me, but my children as well. But I know that my mother stayed alive for so long because of the children and because of me. We kept her very active. And one day she just gave up. But until that time, I moved a hospital bed in my mom's room, and I took care of her that 16 years. I mean, she took care of me. That was why would I not? But she was just the most wonderful, godly mother you have ever seen. So sweet, so angelic. But she just always taught me to love all people. And she taught me to always turn the other cheek. And sometimes I'd feel like my cheek was bruised. But she set a godly example, her and my father. But my father was very active in the community, and so in politics and different things. And I know he got the first Head Start program here in Emmanuel County going. And like I said, my mom and my dad were both just wonderful, wonderful people.
What was the impact that brought the house from being
Oh.
a beautiful house as a child to where it became overwhelming in your life?
Yeah. The damage done to the house during my mom's latter years. The roofs were leaking, the bathrooms were leaking. My water bill would be $250 instead of $46. Just everywhere I turned, the electric bills, because we couldn't afford another air conditioning unit, but our light bills would be $750. And it just got to the point that I was about ready to give up the house, because taking care of my mom, all the medical bills that, were accrued, I just wasn't able to overcome it. But, our roofs were leaking, our floors were, breaking up inside. There was just so much stuff as an older home. It settles, the windows, the heat and the air escapes during the winter or summer. And it just kind of left me, not knowing what to do. I had no help. There was nowhere to go for help. And so when the Rose Ministry came to me, I said, thank you, God, because they have come to help me.
Why is Rose Ministry needed?
Why is Rose Ministry needed? Rose Ministry is needed because of the same situation where we were in the homes of these properties, and we began to see how we can move a little further into helping these seniors, because it was issues with rodents, it was issues with mold in their homes, there were issues with plumbing, electrical, roofing issues. It would be times we would be in the house cleaning the house, and there was water coming in the house, and they just had no help. And though they may have been on city programs, it just took a long time for them to accomplish what, for the city to come out and to do what needed to be done at their properties. So we just moved directly. A lot of times the money that I was making from doing houses, I would take that money and go into these senior houses and bring contractors in and accomplish what needed to be done at their homes.
What do you see in the future for Rose Ministry?
What do I see in the future for Rose Ministry? As you know, Rose is a nonprofit ministry program that we look to try to, first and foremost through this documentary, to try to stir the hearts of the people up. There are so many seniors who were the pillars of the families, generations of families that made it successfully, from putting children and grandchildren through colleges, and at this stage of the game, they had no help. And so what I like to see, Rose, how Rose could really impact the lives of others, is stirring the hearts of the people up. When we, this documentary, and it came to my heart to the theme, the love thy neighbor as thyself. And if you loving and you have things going on that you need to have done in your home, you would want to see that for someone else. And so I would like to see it where not only we get support, but also as entrepreneurs and running businesses, for us to be able also to take monies that we make and to be able to support the needs of the seniors. I mean, I look at it in the sense like this: if they have another year, another 2 years of life, that's 2 years of joy. That's 2 years of a complete change of environment for them, where you can offer hope to an individual who has no hope, where you can go in to a property where they can no longer go up the steps, but you can create bathrooms and bedrooms on the first floor by with bringing contractors in to accomplish that, where they can stay in their own houses without the possibilities of having to move from their houses and go to a nursing home. And most of them really don't want to do that. I mean, they've raised 5, 6, 7 generations in those homes. That's their castle. And so I look to see in the future for Rose, for a generation of people who would see the vision. Individuals, business owners, businesses, entrepreneurs would see the vision, and that they would see and even tap into people that they know need this help, and we can work in collaboration with them to get the funds that we need to bless the seniors, to help them in every endeavor that they need. They deserve it.
Give me what is the backstory that Concord Construction is trying to get to convey to the people about the ones that we're working with?
Okay, so we just don't want to like just shoot a renovation project. It's not about a renovation project. What it's about is the person and, you know, their life and what makes their life better. So when we do a documentary on Mrs. Chance, for example, we want the audience to know Mrs. Chance and what her life story is about, and you know, how her life lessons, you know, we can, anybody, what somebody has went through in life, I think those life lessons can be shown to other people, and people can learn from that. And so that's why we wanted to do it documentary style, because we just didn't want it to be like a question and answer thing. We wanted to tell a story. And we're able to do that, you know, through, first of all, the renovation. It starts with the renovation, but we also then go about talking about her life. And if it resonates with somebody, then, you know, that's all the better. And, you know, we're going to create a series, you know, of every senior that we do. All those seniors are going to have a backstory, and we're going to film that, and we want the audience to be able to connect with that.
Tell me a little bit more in depth about the loss of your grandson.
The loss of my grandson was probably the most severe loss I've ever had in my life. And nobody but the Lord can sustain you through that kind of pain. When my mother passed away, it's like nobody came, nobody brought a chicken leg to the house or anything like people do. And my perception of Swainsboro was not too good during the hard times that I had, because I would reach out to for help in the community, and no one would help me. So I really just kind of shut the doors, and Mom and I just got along the best that we could. But somewhere along the line, the Lord just saw fit to, and it's sad, but through my little grandson, Swainsboro began to reach out to me and my family. And it not only changed my life and my perspective of Swainsboro, but my children's. And we've weathered quite a few storms in Swainsboro. We're private people, we're not out there around in the public a lot. But my hope has been restored back to Swainsboro, and I'm proud to say that I'm from Swainsboro, Georgia, Emanuel County, which means God is with us. And so I just praise Him, and I thank Him for considering me to speak about Him today, about His goodness, because He has sustained me through many losses.
Let's talk about the upbringing at the beach house.
Well, as I've said before, my upbringing was awesome. I had wonderful parents. But my mom and daddy were friends with Mr. Chu, which is a Japanese gentleman that owns most of Tybee Island. And he gave my mother and father a lot right on the beach. So my daddy was a builder, and he built this beautiful beach house, of which every holiday, all our friends, people we didn't even know, we had Ware's barbecue, and everybody came to our beach house. And so every weekend, my mother would have the car packed at 4 o'clock, and my daddy would come home, and we would go to Tybee. That was his way of unwinding. He would take a shower out on the back patio, and this was just like we went to Williams' Seafood to eat, and it was just this pattern. But what I loved so much about it was the people came together, all walks of life, and that's what I want to do with my life.
How did you get into ministry?
The way that I got into ministry, I got saved when I was 8 years old. I grew up in the church. I always knew there was more. So I'd walk down the aisle and shake the pastor's hand, and I'd keep doing it because I knew there was more. I had a hunger in me and a fire in me. I just didn't know what to do with it. And so one night, I believe it was in 1996, there was a knock at my door. And I said, "Who's there?" And he said, "Daryl." And I opened the door, and there was a double-barrel shotgun put to my head. And he kept saying, "Die, die, I want you to die." My little son at 10 years old had a knife. He put the gun to his head, and then my daughter was in the closet. But God never let that gun go off. And I had just prayed that scripture says, "No weapon formed against me shall prosper." And God didn't let it prosper. And so that night, after I had to go down to the police station and identify the guy and go through all the things you have to go through, that night I said, "Okay, you saved me. I've been a good little, Christian girl. I've gone to church. I've done like I was supposed to do. Now what do you want me to do?" And a couple of weeks later, I got a phone call asking me to go to Mardi Gras to do street ministry. Well, I didn't look like a street pastor, but I said yes. And I went with total strangers that I didn't know, but they said, "God told us to teach you about the streets." So as I got out on the streets, I loved it, because by the time people get to a place like that, they've tried everything but Jesus. So it was really very easy. And that continued for 8 years. But then I began to minister to women. And then I began to be a chaplain at the hospital and minister that way. So anything I could find my hands to do that was for the Lord, because I owe him so much, because he's been so good to me.
How is Rose Ministry funded?
At this time, Rose Ministry is funded by various businesses that we run. I am the CEO of Conquer Music Company. We have an all gospel app. We have several businesses because we believe in entrepreneurship. I believe that as entrepreneurs, that is our responsibility, to be able to take the monies that we make through our businesses and to be able to sow it into the lives of the people. And so the seniors is being one of, in that category, to be able to take what we make from our cleaning services, the monies that we make from our music app, the money that we make from all the multiple streams of income through businesses, to actually be able to pour it into these programs with Rose. And at this particular time, that's what we're doing right now. Through our businesses, we're actually pouring the money into it ourselves.
So how did you come in contact with Miss Lynn Chance as a recipient?
I came into contact with Miss Lynn Chance as a recipient through a pastor friend of mine in Texas. We were actually on the phone, and he was explaining to me and sharing with me some of the issues that Miss Lynn Chance had at a property, and she had no help. No one was coming in to help her. And mind you, like I said before, these people have families, but for some reason, the families are not there to help them. And so as we begin to talk and assess the situation, we talked about the possibilities of us as Rose actually bringing her in as a recipient. And what I love about Rose is that we're going to bring in recipients that everyone qualifies. If you're a senior, you qualify. And so we had an opportunity. Another pastor friend of mine in Richmond, Virginia, we got in the truck, we drove down to Georgia, Swainsboro, Georgia. We took an assessment on the property, and then from there we began to put a whole plan of action together. And so that's how we actually got connected with Miss Lynn through a pastor friend of mine in Texas.
What does Rose Ministry acronym stand for?
Rose stands for Restoring Our Seniors' Environments. So what we want to do is restore the environment of the seniors. If you look at, I recently went to a funeral, and I heard some wonderful things of an awesome woman who lived 92 years on this earth, and she had so many accomplishments and raised so many generations. But not only do we want to restore the homes, which I believe is restoring the families as well, but we also want to be able to capture their story. So in the documentary, I found out things about this 92-year-old woman at the funeral. She was acknowledged, and the things she's done were acknowledged at the funeral, versus her still being alive, and the people in life will begin to know what these seniors, their accomplishments and what they bring to life itself. There is so much wisdom, there is so much that the seniors bring from years and years of being here on this earth. And so I believe that not only are we here to restore their environments, again, as I said, give the whole theme of this thing is to give someone roses while they can still smell them.
You said that Rose Ministry brought you hope again.
Yes.
The question is, how can Rose Ministry help other people?
Rose Ministry has been designed by God as an answered prayer, as it was to mine. And I just want everybody to know that the Rose Ministry will help restore hope, because senior citizens are forgotten. People with disabilities are forgotten, and they get swept under the rug. And I know, because I personally have experienced this, but I prayed and prayed for years that God would send someone that would restore my home back to its original status, because I want to honor my mother and father. And I feel that this is the way of honoring my mother and father. I feel like it's just essential for me to do this. But we're the baby boomers, and we didn't expect to have to be the one to carry the load and look after everybody. But we did it because of our dedication to our parents. But there are so many out there like me. Maybe they don't have a refrigerator. Maybe they don't have a washer. There are so many people doing without, and I see this in the senior citizens, especially people that are disabled. I mean, they can't get out and work. They can't make any more money than the government will allow them. And so Rose Ministry has come along. Like I said, I was checking in a nursing home and giving out, just giving up. But God brought Rose Ministry to me and restored my hope, as it will many others.
time to pray like we ain't prayed before. Let's start today. With so much going on, we got to pray. We headed for revival. Earthquakes and hurricanes, we headed for revival. In search for the better days. With so much weight on my shoulders, my soul's getting older. Knees trying to buckle, this weight I got to hold up. Trying to stay alive, I will not quit. Hands holding grip, praying not to slip like I had to change my life. I finally saw the light in the mist, shining bright. Who would have thought that it could be like this? When your heart was empty from the pain that inflict. I ain't lying, I just told myself to keep on trying. Mama in the kitchen crying with the fish grease frying. There's a reason why I was picked to live. For that very same reason I ain't living to die. And this is why God gave me a vision that didn't include prison. I see myself speaking to people, and as they listen, I'm giving them the truth, cause the truth is what they missing. Now listen to the hook, cause that's the mission. It's time to pray like we ain't prayed before. Let's start today. With so much going on, we got to pray. We headed for revival. Earthquakes and hurricanes, we headed for revival. In search for the better days.
I'm not a ball player, I'm not a cop. I barely got my diploma, I'm not a doc. And I don't pray to the sun, don't worship rocks. I put my trust in the Lord, I call it stocks. My pops had an old school Lincoln on Vogues. When he passed it down, I took them off and put some D's on it for show. I turned my music up as loud as it go. I would push the block, the only time I turned it down was passing the cops. But when they left, I turned it back up. West Coast rolling, patrolling, I'm riding slow through Pacoima. Yes, I would act up, I was something like a Mac, cuz I had a lot of women, I'm sinning. But the devil keep telling me I was winning. Yeah, and then my heart got tired. The desires of the streets was no longer a desire. My focus is only God, I gotta commit to him. Since he gave me the offer, all I can do is win, pray.
It's time to pray like we ain't prayed before. Let's start today. With so much going on, we got to pray. We headed for revival.